what's up guys? I'm going to talk to you today about upgrades and the different types of upgrades and how not all upgrades are just upgrades, and how there's basically about 4 different qualities of upgrades and how some are really bad, some are really good, and what to look for when deciding your upgrades. Like my hat? Alright, so I keep my upgrade cards in these kind of sleeves, and the first kind I want to talk about is the worst kind. I call these expendables. Naturally, any torpedo or mine or missile falls into this, but so do cards like Chewbacca. So do cards that are basically used once, that once you use this card, you have to discard it. Cards like Stealth Device don't exactly fall into this. They can be lost, but this is a card that only has a use one time. Same thing goes for Princess Leia's crew card. It can only be used one time. I put this in the worst category, but they are situational. Chewbacca certainly has his uses. Princess Leia certainly has her uses. But for point value, I don't really think she's useful in most 100-point games. She has a better use for maybe a 300-point game, where you have a lot of ships, because she's going to affect everybody. And Chewbacca, he's certainly got uses too. He's good on a Falcon. You have to learn how to use him too, because you can wait for a specific type of crit to show up. So, those are your expendables. Now, the next kind of upgrade I want to talk to you about is the actions. Some are good, some are bad, but R7T1 is an excellent action. Now, he's a bad example to start this off with. Let's start off with Expose. Okay, Expose is like one of the worst upgrades in the game. One of the reasons it's such a bad upgrade is because it consumes an action. It can cost 4 points, so it's already inexpensive. I mean, most upgrades cost like 2 or 3. This one costs 4 points, so it's an expensive upgrade. It reduces your agility by 1. And it increases the primary weapon value by 1. So, I mean, it does something good. There's not too many things that increase your primary weapon value, but it consumes your action. So, this is a bad one. You only get to use it till one time. You're not going to focus, because you're going to fire unfocused or possibly with no target lock as well. So, if you have a ship, it's better to have 1 less attack die and have a focus than have 1 extra attack die and roll just a naked roll. So if this didn't require an action, if it was just something you could do, then it would be much better. Or if it didn't hurt you by doing your agility, it would be much better. There's others, R2F2. This is another type, So a lot of these are elite pilot skills that I'm showing out you, but some are crew, some are droids. They're some of the most common types. But this can apply to anything. This can even apply to pilot skills. But really, I'm looking at upgrades that you're going to add to your fleet. R2F2, he can increase your agility by 1 until the end of turn, and that's great, but you usually want to have a focus that's going to help your defense rolls much better than just 1 die. And he consumes an action, so you're not going to be able to focus. Now, some of these can be okay, like Expose is okay if you are using Darth Vader, because he gets 2 actions. But still, it's so expensive. You're better off trying to get more creative with your points. Now, like I said, they're not all bad. Just because this is like one of my worst categories here for the action upgrades, this one has a lot of potential uses. Perform a barrel roll. Now, why is this great? For one, it's only 2 points. It's situationally great because some ships don't have barrel roll. For example, the Millennium Falcon. You can put this on the Millennium Falcon, and then it can do a barrel roll. So that's awesome. You're going to get a stress when you do it, but situationally, I mean, if you've haven't never seen the Millennium Falcon barrel roll, you need to check it out sometime. Expert Handling, excellent card. Now, R7T1, this is the guy I started with. Now, he does require an action, and he's 3 points, so he's a little on the expensive side, but he can get you 2 actions for the price of 1 action, so he is actually pretty darn good. He lets you get a target lock on a ship and then a free boost action. And this is especially good because Out of all the ships that can, like an X-Wing doesn't have a boost. A Y-Wing doesn't have a boost. An E-Wing doesn't have a boost. So this is really nice. It's basically an action that you wouldn't be able to take otherwise. Very cool card. Proof that not all action upgrades are bad, but most aren't that great. Okay. Now, those are basically actions that just apply once. I do have some other actions in here, but I'm going to get to them a little bit later because they work a little differently. Now, my next category are things that do not require an action, but they're single use only. Okay. Now, C3PO. Now, this quality, this whole tier, my tier 3 upgrades, they're real nice. They're not the best ever, but they're approaching the top, and I rank them as worthwhile upgrades usually. And so what this type of upgrade is, and C3PO is a prime example of it, is things that work once per turn but don't consume your action. So C3PO is really great on the Millennium Falcon. If you don't know the strategy with him, you just you guess 0, then you roll your 1 die, and if it turns up not to be an evade, then you get your evade from C3PO. And if it turns out to be an evade, then you got your evade naturally. But basically, he guarantees that you're going to get the 1 evade. Unless, of course, somebody like Wedge reduces his, agility to 0. But that only works once. It doesn't work for every time you're attacked. If it worked for every time you're attacked, it'd be way better, and then you're going into the tier 4, the better upgrades. But he works automatically. He doesn't require an action. Even if you get action denial, or even if you're stressed, C3PO still triggers. So that makes him a pretty darn good card. I rank him at tier 3. Once per turn, his buddy R2-D2. So if you've got the core set, you're familiar with this card. I rank him at tier 3 also. He's a little expensive, so he's situational, but you don't have to use an action. You don't have to do anything special. Just a green maneuver, and you get your shield back, and that in addition to anything else you have going on. So you don't have to do anything special. Now, granted, you do have to remember, or unless you have a really great opponent who's going to remind you. Okay, Tactician is kind of in between this and the next tier, and he's the same as Gunner. Gunner, if you miss, you get to shoot again. This guy's after you perform attack inside your firing arc at range 2, that ship receives 1 stress token. This is one of the newer guys. He's really cool, but you usually only attack once per turn, so that's why I group him into this category. You can group attack more than once if you have Gunner, or if you have Core and Horn, but of course you couldn't put him on a card with Core and Horn, so until they give E-Wings a crew slot. But what I mean is stuff like this. Forget about that he is a crew and his name is Tactician. Look at the ability. It's after you perform an attack. So if something triggers automatically after you attack, you need to think about that for ships that can attack more than once. That's going to increase them, increase their value. So if it's a ship that is Gunner, or that ship like like Core and Horn that can attack twice, or for going forward, if they ever come up with any other ship that can attack more than once, you need to think about upgrades that work after an attack. The Darth Vader crew is another example of that. The Gunner, the Luke Skywalker crew is another example of that. Push the Limit is one of these that happens automatically, although this is a kind of a unique one and probably one of the best upgrades in the game. But it falls into that tier 3 category, and although it's probably 3.5 because it works so well, but it's once per turn. You have to be able to take an action, and then you can get your other action. It does give you a stress, but I kind of do it once per turn because if you have a stress already, you're not eligible for free actions, so you wouldn't be able. And plus, it says once per round, so this is only going to happen once each turn. What else is in here? I've got. Okay, and then Wingman. At the start of the combat phase, remove a stress token from another ship at range 1. Happens automatically, still tier 3. Does something good. You don't have to spend a token, or it doesn't do anything bad to you. It just does something good, but it's once per turn. So this is the tier 3 type of thing. Now I'm going to get into the tier 4. This is actually 3.5. I'm doing marksmanship in the middle. I should have probably ranked this one with gunner, because marksmanship lets you. It's like a focus, but it turns one of your focus symbols into a crit, and the rest into regular hits. But it says when attacking this round, so this one actually lasts all round. So if you have gunner, it's going to work for both of them. If you're doing a Han shoots first list, this works really well with that. It can modify up to 4 attack rolls on Han Solo. If he's using the Han Solo ability, it can work on, and with a gunner, it can work on all of those. And it also works on Corran Horn, who's attacking twice. Or if he attacks twice. So marksmanship is kind of like 3.5. Now I'm going to talk about the upgrades that just work all turn long automatically. So elusiveness. When defending, you may receive a stress token. Oh, I'm sorry, no. This is still tier 3, because you can only do this once. You may receive a stress token and choose an attack die, and the attacker has to re-roll that die. I'm sorry, I got this one confused with a different one. So this one is also another one of those one-time only. So it's still a tier 3. It happens automatically, you have the option, but it doesn't cost you a stress or an action. It just puts a stress on you, and chances are, if you're defending, you've probably already moved or already done your action, so you can take the stress. So that's basically what I'm talking about for tier 3. So tier 4, we're getting into stuff like, here we go. This is a perfect example of it. Flight instructor. When defending, you may re-roll one of your eye results. If the attacker's pilot skill is 2 or lower, you can re-roll one of your blank results instead. This works on every single time you get attacked. This could be really nice on a Millennium Falcon, for example. If you're going up against a TIE Swarm, you get attacked 6 times, well, you get to re-roll every single evasion, agility die you roll all around until you get what you want. Well, not until you get what you want, but you get to re-roll, basically every time. So this is really good. The Luke Skywalker X-Wing pilot is another example of something like this. He gets to use his ability every time. Now, that's not an upgrade, that's just his pilot skill, but it still counts as like a tier 4 ability. It's fantastic. Predator is... I put him up to tier 4 because this is like one of my favorite upgrades. And when attacking, you may re-roll 1 attack die. And if the defender's pilot skill is 2 or lower, I may re-roll up to 2 attack dice. Kind of the Hell Runner ability. And while this is kind of like a 3.5, again, because of ships that have multiple attacks, it doesn't cost an action, doesn't give you a stress. There's no downside to this. It's, and I would expect it to cost 4, but it costs 3. So it's things like that are going to work on every turn automatically. But this type is the best. Not specifically the flight instructor, because he's expensive and he's a crew, so he's limited on the ships that he can go on. But the ability, when defending, you may do this. That's awesome, because you can potentially be defending like 6, 7, 8 times per turn. So things like that are always going to be in effect. That's the top tier of upgrades. So when you're looking at what upgrades you want to put on your list, you want to think about, is it going to cost me an action? How many times per turn can I use it? Or is it once per game? Is it like Chewbacca or Princess Leia, where it's once per game, and then I flip it over and then it's gone? Or is it, or is it something like a targeting computer that's, only only 2 points, and it's a permanent upgrade to the ship? So basically, the more you can use it per turn, the better it's going to work for you. If you can only use it once per turn, it's not going to be as valuable. And if it happens automatically multiple times per turn, it's going to be more valuable. If it's static and it stays into effect the whole time, it's going to be of the most valuable. The only other thing I have to add to that is you have to remember to use them. So now I get to put all these cards away, And that concludes my presentation on upgrades and how I rank them. And hopefully it was helpful. Talk to you later. Bye.